Hey all, on this video I'm going to explain what retrospection is for the agile learners or the agile team. So on this video I'm going to cover what an agile retrospective meeting is, why this event is really important or what is the need for this event at all in the agile process framework, who should be the participants on this meeting, and what is the general way of running this event, the typical formats of the retro meeting which we are currently prevailing, some typical anti-patterns on the retro meeting, and how we can do a retrospection meeting when the teams are distributed, which is the current scenario right now. So, a retrospective in general means taking a look back at events that are already done or have taken place in the past. Now, in Agile, the definition is really a meeting which is held after the product ships to discuss what happened during the product development, with the goal of improving things in the future based on those learnings and conversations which we make over this retrospective meeting. So on the image which you're seeing right now, if you observe, the sprint retrospective is one of the last thing done in a sprint and is the time when the whole team comes together and discusses the team's performance. The meeting should be considered or is expected to be a safe place where team members can share their feedback without really thinking much about the higher level management or the leadership. So in that sense we say this is going to be or expected to be a safe place where they can share their actual feedback about how the work was really done. So it makes sense, especially since the focus of the agile methodology is continuous improvement. So let's try to understand what is the need for this retro meeting in addition to the regular events which we have, or is it an additional ad hoc or an additional overhead for the team to have this meeting? Really, no. The general purpose is to allow the team as a group to evaluate its past working cycle. In addition, it's an important moment to gather feedback on what really went well and what did not. So somebody said, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that really won't work to build something. So next time he tries to make a better version of the bulb, he knows the direction in which he does not have to go. So some notions or processes might seem sloppy, but actually provide value somewhere else in the company or prevent other forms of scrap from being produced later. So insanity is doing the same things and expecting different results. So if you want to solve the problems that you're having and deliver more value to your customers, you have to change the way you're doing the work. So that is why Agile promotes the usage of retrospectives to help teams solve problems and improve by they themselves discussing the work which they did and try to get to a solution to avoid the problems which they have actually faced while developing the product or the a piece of increment in the past. So who should be the participants on this retro meeting? So we want the scrum master, who is the facilitator of this meeting, the product owner and the developers be part of this meeting, and we really don't want somebody to also not attend this meeting. And who should that be? So if you look at the picture, we have distinguished between the must attend, should attend and depends in some cases. So we really don't want, or when we are saying this meeting should be a safe place where the scrum team discusses their recent sprint and improvements they are going to improve on the next one. So according to the discipline framework, a safe place should not be affected by the leadership or by any kind of people who is holding a positional authority or some potential agendas or other implicit impacts. So we really uh, uh, don't want the management or the customers or the stakeholders be part of this. It's always best to avoid this set of people on this meeting. So how do we really run this retro meeting? I mean, what are we trying to learn from the retro meeting? So things which we want the team to start to make it a better place to work and for getting a better outcome, and stop doing certain things so that we won't repeat the same problems even in the next sprint, and continue what we have been doing to give the best result. So this is one of the most straightforward ways to run the retrospective. Start actions we should start taking, stop actions we should stop or prevent or remove, continue actions we should keep doing, and formalize. So what we do when we are running this retro meeting is gather the team. Uh, we really want the team to participate on this meeting, and we really want the mood to be relaxed on this meeting. And we definitely need the Scrum Master be part of this meeting or be this facilitator so that he can identify and make a note and also track the action items at the end of the meeting. So how we really start is the start items are the things a team member thinks the team should add to its process. So examples are like showing the software to customers early, doing code inspections, finishing one story before starting the next. So if it's a new team, it's really good if the Scrum Master explains the whole process or the essence of the retrospection to the team by giving certain examples which you're seeing on the slide. And what stop means is other things that someone on the team thinks are inefficient or are wasting time. So the team should stop doing this. Examples are checking in code without being sure all tests will pass, taking more than 15 minutes on the scrum calls, skipping refinement meetings at the end of the sprint. So the continue list contains items the team would like to continue to emphasize, but they are not yet habits. So the team can have them on the board and track them for few sprints till it really becomes a habit. Otherwise, the continue would become tremendously long. Now we can also choose a new a task on this retro meeting, which is the voting system. So once there are enough ideas that have been generated, have the team members vote for the most important items or all the items. The Scrum Master can have each team member vote for the one most important idea, or can use the typical multi-voting approach. So for example, give each member 3 votes to allocate as they wish, including all three votes to the same items also. So we can allow multi-voting as well. So in addition to the voting for new items to pursue, discuss whether items on the continue list have been achieved, are no longer important, or should be otherwise removed from the list. We can customize the voting settings like limit the number of votes per person, limit the number of votes per item, set the time, and also set the time to close this voting process. Now, when you have reached or when you are done with the voting system, identify the line item which has the maximum number of votes and have it on the action item list and track it for the next sprint. So once the voting process is done, so discuss a lot on this retro meetings. It's really important. Create an action plan for how to improve. Decide what to do, maybe based on the voting system or just by discussing each line item. Put a date against actionable item. It always helps. Now for the next retrospective, I suggest the Scrum Master bring up the list of ideas which were generated in the previous meeting, both the ideas chosen to be worked on and everything actually, which is always good. So these can help jumpstart the discussion for the next retrospective. On this slide, I have just pasted the pictures which were available online of the different formats of the retro meetings, which are trending these days, which are like the start, stop, continue, the three L's, which basically gets information in the three categories, which are liked, learned, and lacked, and do more of this, do less of this, the same of this was puzzling, this was frustrating, and this was the most enjoyable. This is the one of the format which I really like. And then we have the what went well, what did not go well, any suggestions, and the action items. We can use a physical board for this. Then we have the starfish technique, and then we have the sailboat, which basically depicts a board. There is a goal, which is the island, and the anchors are the negativities which are pulling, the development team behind. Then there are positives, which is the wing, so team can come forward and put the sticky notes onto the board, on the physical board. So these are basically the different formats, but when we collect the information, what we are trying to understand is always what is that something which we can do in the next sprint to avoid the problems which we faced in this sprint. So yeah, that's how we run the retro meeting, and we have the action items. But as a Scrum Master, it is also important for me to observe the anti-patterns which could or which generally arise in most of the retro meetings, because you have different set of people with different variations of experience and experience levels. So team really cannot agree on the action item sometimes, and no one really feels responsible for the action item. And we really do not track the action item over the sprint, and in the next sprint we forget what it was. And it becomes more of a blame game when we do this retro meeting. And sometimes the topics which we discuss on the retro meetings are too repetitive, without the action items not being closed properly or not being tracked properly. And there is no new action item because we already have a rule for that. We're trying to change the issue X, but no luck yet. Too many action items, and we have got no idea if there's a follow-up through. That is somewhere, the team is really lacking trust on the leadership or the Scrum Master, that there would be some improvement or some change which can be brought up by using this retrospective meeting. So as a Scrum Master, you really need to observe if this pattern is there in the team, and coach the team sufficient enough to understand the essence of this meeting, and be participative on this meeting. So, if it was a physical board where the team is very much co-located and everyone is present in the room, it really would have been easy. But let's face it, guys, in today's world, we have to really run this with the distributed teams. And the fact is, we have to accept this. Agile methodologies weren't exactly created for remote teams. So early agile teams were really overwhelming, co-located in offices, mostly because of video conferencing, chat, and other technology that makes remote work possible. Very primitive. But these days, with so many people working remotely, gathering the team in the same room is a nightmare or not at all realistic. That doesn't mean remote retrospectives are impossible. However, they're just a little bit different. So when we're trying to run this retro with distributed teams, we have to be a bit more prepared, a bit more cautious. So we'll need to figure out the logistics to run this remote retro. Identify some online tool. I know one which is Idea Boards. It really helps. It is good. I've been using it for some time. Try to set up the video call. Try to record the complete video so that it will be there for the reference of the team at any point of time. Discuss candidly. Discuss the things respectfully over the video call. Reflect on your retrospective. So once the meeting is done, take a minute at the end to discuss how the retro really went. And I think that should give a really good result of the retro and a good feel to the team as well. So if you really like the content on this video, please